3 words, in person. Again, say them out loud, because in Parliament, those 3 words change the temperature of a room. And if you want to understand how power really moves in South Africa, do not look at the speeches. Look at the procedure. Yes, procedure is pressure. Now, watch what happened in Cape Town. Monday, 19th January 2026, not a shouting match, not a dramatic vote, a program and housekeeping meeting, draft schedule, witness slots, the mechanics of the inquiry, and those boring mechanics are where pressure gets built. This was Parliament's ad hoc committee probing allegations of corruption and interference in the criminal justice system, sparked by claims raised by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Loti Genhlanhla Mkhwanazi. A committee built for one job: take explosive claims, drag them into the light, and test them on the record. So when a committee like this changes tone, it is not mood, it is method. According to reports, MPs pushed for the committee to issue a formal parliamentary summons requiring Paul O'Sullivan to appear in person.
They were calling for the process to be expedited. How do you expedite a process of parliament? How do you expedite a process of law? Because they are saying that Collins Letsoalo has defied summons. He's contesting that he's even received those summons.
Some outlets used subpoena as shorthand, but the committee's tool here is a parliamentary summons. That is the moment this stops feeling routine. And before we go deeper, do this for me. Hit like now because what comes next is heavy. Subscribe because we will not stop digging. This story does not end today. 12 months. Hold that number. Because under the Powers, Privileges, and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act, certain summons-related failures can be an offense, liable to a fine or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 12 months. Now add a second obsession. 20th of February. According to reports, that date sits at the end of the committee's current window, with next steps to follow. According to reports, the committee is working to a late February timetable, and reports say members want O'Sullivan in person before that window closes. So you have a collision coming. According to reports, he is in London and asked to appear virtually, while MPs want an in-person appearance before the committee's February timetable runs out. That is why this escalates fast, because under South African law, a summons is not a polite invite. If a person has been duly summoned and, without sufficient cause, fails to attend at the time and place specified, or fails to remain in attendance until excused, that can be an offense. According to reports, MPs rejected a virtual appearance and insisted on in-person testimony. And here is the part people miss. In an inquiry like this, control of testimony is the whole game. So when a committee says, come physically, it is not about seating charts. O'Sullivan, according to reports, asked to testify virtually from London, citing alleged death threats and safety concerns. And this is not just, I prefer Zoom. According to reports, he is saying, I cannot safely stand in that room. MPs can read it differently. You do not get to set the terms of oversight. That is why a safety request instantly turned into an authority fight. MPs did not just say no. They reacted like the request itself was a challenge to Parliament's authority.
The MK party is not dealing with the substance of the issue. We're dealing right now with, indeed you are deflecting, we are dealing now with the incompetence of the NPA.
So keep the obsession in your head, in person. Again, look closely at the language. Do not skim it. There is a big difference between send a submission, clarify in writing, answer through attorneys, and come here, sit here, answer here. Because summons is a legal tool, not a suggestion. Under the Powers, Privileges, and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act, a summons must spell out the time and place, the subject of the inquiry, and the purpose. Here is the part most viewers miss. The summons is designed to remove excuses. It is meant to name the time, place, subject, and purpose, and it can require documents too. It can even specify how it must be served, because Parliament is building a paper trail that survives argument. It is formal, it is structured, it is meant to remove wiggle room, and the Act is specific about what non-compliance can look like, including failures to attend or to remain until excused. That is why MPs treat in person like a line in the sand, not a preference. Now add the political layer. According to reports, MPs said the problem was not only the virtual request, they framed the emails as contempt, and the chair publicly described the language as insulting to Parliament. That matters because once Parliament feels disrespected, it stops negotiating details and starts enforcing principle. According to multiple reports, the committee chair, Soviet Lekanyan, argued that O'Sullivan went beyond a simple virtual request and insulted Parliament, including referring to a criminal parliament and alleging MPs were part of a conspiracy to take his life. Also, according to reports, MPs raised another issue. Even if he appeared virtually, he said he would not recognize or engage with certain parties' MPs. So to the committee, this stopped being Zoom versus in-person. It became, do you respect the institution or not? That is why an in-person appearance matters. It gives the committee what paper never can. Real-time follow-ups, no delays, no carefully edited paragraphs, no hiding behind formatting. And when a committee chooses that route, it usually means one of three things. They think previous answers left gaps. They think contradictions are sitting in the details. They want the moment, on camera, with the country watching. Notice what I said. It usually means, not it definitely means. Because we are doing this properly. Facts are facts. Interpretation is interpretation. What happened? O'Sullivan was pushed back into an in-person appearance demand, and MPs discussed using a summons mechanism to compel it. What it might mean, the committee wants to tighten the screws. And tighten the screws does not mean drama. It means a tactic. If you have watched serious oversight hearings, you know the pattern. Step 1, written requests. Step 2, clarify. Step 3, live questioning. Step 4, oath, documents, timelines, names. The committee does not need to shout. The summons does the shouting for them. And there is one more layer that matters. This committee has a calendar. The program is part of the pressure. Reports list key witnesses booked into tight dates, including Robert McBride and others linked to the same allegations.
The committee is also expected to hear the testimony of former IPID head Robert McBride on Tuesday. O'Sullivan is currently out of the country, with indications that he may not return before the committee concludes its work. Despite this, MPs remain adamant that he must account, even if it means recalling the committee or issuing a subpoena.
O'Sullivan was also originally scheduled for specific January days, and then the virtual request landed right on top of that timeline. So this is not only anger, it is scheduling as leverage. So in-person, again, can also read like urgency. Not just anger, a race against the deadline. That is the real tension. Not noise. Pressure. Pressure that comes from law, optics, and time. Now, if you are new to this name, here is the clean version. Paul O'Sullivan is a forensic investigator and security consultant, Irish-born, long active in South Africa's public fights over corruption and accountability. He operates through private investigative structures, including O'Sullivan Brosnan and Associates and the advocacy-facing platform Forensics for Justice, where he publicly frames the justice system as captured and calls for aggressive cleanup. And inside this committee, his name is not abstract. According to reports, Mkhwanazi has called for O'Sullivan to be investigated over alleged IPID interference or influence. That is why MPs call him central to the probe, because they are not only testing his claims, they are testing his role. In a hearing like this, role is everything, and here is why he changes the room. He is not a quiet witness. He is a person with a track record of taking high-profile positions publicly, and he has been in serious legal and political battles himself, including past Hawks-related charges, and later a major claim against the state tied to an arrest that was, according to reports, ultimately thrown out. So when he walks into a parliamentary committee, people do not just hear testimony, they hear potential fallout. Some people treat him like a watchdog, other people treat him like a grenade. And right now, this is not happening in a calm political season. This committee exists because South Africans are already on edge after explosive allegations by senior police figures about criminal syndicates and interference inside the justice system. So when someone like O'Sullivan enters the frame, the room stops being casual, because the real tension is not just committee versus witness, it is institution versus a witness who claims he has inside knowledge. Allegedly, according to his public statements and the way the issue has been covered in public debate. Listen that again. I am not asking you to trust my voice. I'm showing you how to keep it tight, dramatic, and still fair. Now focus. If someone is called back again, it implies the first round did not close the file. That does not automatically mean wrongdoing. It can mean gaps. It can mean disputes about process. It can mean the committee wants clarity for the record, but it does mean the story is alive. And in this case, we have extra signals. According to Parliament's own updates, the committee has been moving through oral hearings and lining up more witnesses. And the chair has said members were unanimous that witnesses should appear in person. So this is not just they called him again. This is a committee building a program, gathering testimony, and tightening its method. And the most dangerous political moments are not the loud ones. They are the moments where the system quietly says, no, come back. We are not done. Picture the difference between these two worlds. World 1, written submissions. A witness has time. A witness can choose words carefully. A witness can answer around the question. World 2, in-person questioning. The clock belongs to the committee. The rhythm belongs to the chair. The interruptions belong to the members, and every pause becomes a headline. Even if the questions are polite, the structure is not. Now add the detail that turned this into a clash. Remember, according to reports, he asked to testify virtually from London, citing safety concerns. That is not just logistics. To MPs, that reads like a challenge to authority. So, in person becomes leverage. It removes the buffer, it removes the distance, it forces one standard for everyone. And Parliament's own messaging has leaned into that principle. Show up physically, answer physically, in front of the country. Now pause. Because you might think this is only pressure on O'Sullivan. It is not. Committees do not operate in a vacuum. They perform oversight and they perform credibility. If they look too soft, the public asks, what is Parliament even doing? If they look too aggressive, critics ask, is this intimidation, not oversight? So the committee is walking a line, firm but fair, sharp but controlled. And there is a fear factor in the background that nobody wants to own on camera. According to reports, at least one MP raised the logic bluntly. If you force a return and something happens to him, Parliament wears that blame. So the committee is juggling two optics at the same time, authority and safety. That tension is what makes every sentence feel loaded, and this is where it gets real. The chair has publicly framed some of O'Sullivan's remarks as beyond a simple request, describing them as insulting to Parliament and serious allegations against members. So now the committee is not only managing testimony, it is managing respect, legitimacy, and optics. Because when both sides have something to lose, everyone gets careful. And when everyone gets careful, small mistakes become huge stories. If you watch the session, do not just listen to the words. Listen for the architecture of power. This is an ad hoc committee set up to test the veracity and implications of allegations made by Latgen Nhalanhla Mkhwanazi about corruption and interference in the criminal justice system. And it has been running hearings since early October 2025. So, when the committee shifts its tone, it is not random. It is the machine adjusting. I want you to listen for the moment a chair or member stops talking like an administrator and starts talking like an institution. Listen for words like summons, insult, program, in person, and on record. That is the moment the hearing stops being a conversation and becomes a test of authority. Reports say MPs rejected his virtual request unanimously and framed it as disrespect to Parliament. Also listen for oath language. Because once you hear oath or affirmation, the temperature changes again. The Act also sets out rules around questioning and privilege, including that evidence given there has special protections and exceptions, like perjury cases. That is not drama. That is the machinery of accountability turning on. Then listen for the trigger that made this personal. According to reports, the chair, Soviet Lekanyane, said O'Sullivan went beyond a virtual request and used phrases like criminal parliament and even accused MPs of plotting to kill him. That matters because once a witness questions the legitimacy of the room stops being neutral. Now watch the structure of the questioning, not the drama. Do they ask him to commit to dates, names, and documents, or do they let him speak in big themes? Do they chase one clear timeline, or do they bounce around and let him escape through noise? Do they stop him mid-sentence to pin him down, or do they let him build a story? And keep your eyes on one detail that tells you the pressure is real. The committee is working from a program and a deadline. Reports say they met to finalize the program, and the insistence on in-person testimony is part of that tightening. Now the nonverbal chess. Do not pretend we can read minds. Do not do fake body language science. But you can watch control. Who controls the pace? Who controls the framing? Who forces the answer to match the question? You are not hunting guilt. You are hunting leverage. Steal this phrasing because it keeps you dramatic without stepping into defamation. According to reports of the committee discussion, MPs were not satisfied with the process so far and wanted O'Sullivan physically present, not virtual. It appears they wanted answers on the record, live, with less room for filtering. This reads like escalation, even if the language stays formal. The optics suggest higher stakes, especially because the committee is dealing with allegations that hit the legitimacy of the criminal justice system itself. And here is what you do not say as fact. You do not say they are hiding something. You do not say they are protecting someone. You do not say he is definitely lying. You cannot prove that from vibes. So we do the smarter thing. We show what happened, then we ask what it might mean. So what happens next? And there is one extra reality if he stays in London. A summons is a domestic tool, but the political consequence is still immediate. The committee has to decide whether to move on without him, extend pressure, or escalate the finding to an institutional confrontation. So even without a viral shouting match, the next step can still be a rupture in trust. Now we are at the fork in the road, and it is not 10 fluffy options. It is a few hard paths. One path is clean compliance. He appears in person, answers directly, and the committee gets the kind of on-record clarity it has been signaling it wants. That strengthens Parliament's oversight posture, and it strengthens his image if he stays consistent. Another path is partial compliance. He appears, but limits what he will answer, leans on process, or keeps things general. That keeps the file alive and invites follow-up sessions, more paper, more pressure. Another path is conflict on procedure. Not shouting, not chaos. Just friction over what is appropriate, who he will recognize, and whether the committee's authority is being respected. Reports already say he objected to recognizing questions from certain parties' MPs, which is exactly the kind of issue that can ignite procedural conflict. And then there is the path that always arrives when cameras are in the room. One viral moment, one exchange, one refusal, one interruption, one phrase that gets clipped and loops across social media. Cameras do not record everything equally. They select what the country will remember. And now we circle back to the obsession. In person. Again, ask yourself why the committee chose that move now. Is this Parliament showing real oversight muscle in a high-stakes inquiry? Or is this becoming a fight over narrative, legitimacy, and who gets to define truth in public? That is not a conspiracy claim. That is a real political question. So do two things. Comment your read. Do you think this recall signals stronger accountability or political theater, and why? And stay close. Because if they are pushing in person again, it means the file is not closed. And when a file stays open in Parliament, it is never only about one person. It is about the system. Hit like if you felt the temperature rise from those 3 words. Subscribe because we will not stop digging. In person. Again.